Afternoon, all my friends. This is Mitchell Swan. It's Monday, and I am sitting in once again for Marc McMain. Great show for you today. In the studio with us for the full hour, we've got Ron Collins. Now, Ron is a local. He lives down in Madison, but he has a great deal of executive experience in the insurance industry. And a few years back, he wrote a book called Scuttled, The Sinking of the Palmer K. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing well, Mitch.
Great to have you in here today.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. It's certainly a beautiful setting in this part of the country.
It is. We got great weather. And now Chastity, as I understand it, she's off on vacation, getting all the sunshine possible. So we've got Paul in the studio. How are you, Paul?
I'm finer than a gnat on a hair, finer than the hair on a gnat's ankle. And that's fine.
That is fine. Man, well, you're going to keep us on track today. If I do anything wrong, I'm just looking at the producer.
Okay, I'll do my best to fill in for Chastity's big shoes.
Oh, well, you're going to do great, my brother. You live local, Paul?
I do, right here in Monroe.
Oh, outstanding. All right.
Used to live in Good Hope, but then moved to Monroe.
Oh, you went to the big city.
Went to the big city, yeah.
Not enough biscuits for you and just
That's
Good
true.
Hope.
Actually, as you can probably tell, I'm not from around here. But I moved to Atlanta in 1976. I've been down here since 1976. The bicentennial, July 4th,
That's
1976, right. I moved into my apartment over in DeKalb County. Been here ever since.
So you wanted to have the 250th down here in the South.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Well, speaking of 1776, you lived down in Madison, named after that president, too, right?
Yep, James Madison.
Yeah, there was a lot of patriotism going on down here when they were naming counties and towns and so forth. How long have you been down here, Ron?
Well, I moved from Atlanta 8 years ago. 8 years ago this month. So I'm not considered a native, but I feel like one.
Born and raised in Georgia, were you?
No. Military family, traveled the world.
Oh, that's great. What was your favorite duty station where you had to live? Where your dad packed up?
Huntsville, Alabama, because we went from western New York State and the Finger Lakes, the Snow Belt, down to Alabama. I was going to go to Cornell because I was a junior in high school, which Cornell was just right up the road from where we lived in New York. And then I moved to Alabama. And one winter in Alabama, that was it. I wasn't going back north for school.
God sorted you out and said, you're a Southerner, man. You're not going up north at all.
Absolutely.
Well, wonderful. Well, if you're tuning in today, the reason I'm so grateful to have you for the full hour is this is a great show for anyone that has a business, is a leader, is a manager. You know, I had got an MBA years ago from Chaminade University. We would do case studies, and case studies would be like, hey, what was GE like before Jack Welch got there? Or Chrysler was going bankrupt, we got to bring Lee Iacocca in to turn it around. You got to witness the collapse of one of Georgia's greatest companies, and it was 135 years old, and you wrote this out in a book. Because you had been there as a senior vice president, not just a vice president, you were a senior vice president in Atlanta. Tell us about your time in the insurance industry and what you saw for those years you were working, and then we'll get to how everything just changed course pretty hard.
Yeah. Right out of school, I got a business degree at Auburn University. Right out of school, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I ended up in the insurance business, working for an insurance company. And then as things progressed in my career, I went from being a representative of an insurance company to being an independent insurance broker. I worked for the couple of the main national firms. And along the way, and around the late, I would say around 1990, I made the switch over to an independent insurance broker, headquartered out of Savannah, called Palmer & K. We were just a small little operation, probably only $5 million in revenue, only about 40 employees, and then
family owned.
Started
in like the 1800s or something.
Yeah, our brochure used to have the last known picture of Robert E. Lee buying insurance down in Savannah. Of course, as time progressed, we had to take that picture out of our.
He didn't become a spokesman then, huh?
Yes. So anyway, I went to work for Palmer and Kay, and like I said, after having worked for several of the major national firms, this was a small Georgia firm. But over the 16 years I was there, we grew and we built, and we ended up at about $140 million in revenue, 800 employees. We had 28 offices in 12 states, all through the Southeast, and we even started expanding up to Detroit and to Boston. We had some small offices up there, so it was a very, very successful company.
And you had a very good, solid reputation, too, for just for integrity and keeping your word and underwriting solid policies.
We were the second largest privately held insurance broker in the country, and we were the gold standard. Everybody wanted to work for us. All the insurance companies want us to sell their product. Our customers loved us, and it was just a great culture, built on integrity, built on hard work, one brick at a time.
And it wasn't started in Atlanta, right? It started in Savannah?
Correct. Savannah, yeah. It was basically in the marine insurance business down in Savannah, right there on River Street.
Oh, that's a niche market.
Yeah.
Anyone need any travel insurance going through the Hormuz right now? Sorry, you can't get it. They're gone now. But, well, that's interesting. So they brought you in, and so you didn't work out of the Savannah office. You just worked here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I was in the Atlanta office. I was the 22nd person hired in the Atlanta office. We were small, tiny, but very aggressive. And John Kay, the leader of the company and the primary owner, was very hardworking, hell-bent on us being successful, and we were. We grew like crazy, and we got a reputation. We were a small company, but we had major accounts. We did the Waffle House account. We had Callaway Gardens. We had Holder Construction. So we were small, but we were a major player.
But you were family owned too. It's not
Still
like these
family-owned.
big ones now where you can buy stock options
Right.
and stuff on.
All the stock was privately held, and it wasn't until I had been there 10 years before they really started letting senior officers start buying stock. And eventually they started letting everybody buy stock that's worked there.
Sure. I think I would encourage people to, if you want to start a business or get in a field, if you can do it yourself, people want to help a family business. They just do. And I think of Henry Belk, too. After the Civil War, his dad had been killed, and, he just wanted to become a really great merchant, and he built up this Belk department store empire. And it's struggling now, and it's changed. Yeah. Some of those rules might be found here in your book, Scuttled, The Sinking of the Palmer Kay. So how many years did you totally have in insurance? When we listened to you critique this book here shortly, or the performance of the managers that came in, how many years did you have total?
I guess I started in 1970, so over 40 years.
Oh my God, that's a minute.
Yeah. It was a lifetime.
What are you doing today?
I am working up at Weinberger's furniture store up at Lake Oconee. We're a major store for 58,000 square feet of furniture, and that again, family-owned business.
58,000 square feet. If they don't stock it, no one makes it. That's right. A big store.
And that's without. We don't do appliances, so that's furniture.
You get your steps in when you go to Weinberger's.
Oh, absolutely.
You just go shopping. You're going to have a workout.
It is a family-owned business.
That's great.
The Weinbergers still own the business. The original store in Augusta is over 90 years old. We've been at Lake Oconee for 20 years. We're on 18th of this month. We're kicking off our annual tent sale, which is a huge event. It draws people from everywhere. And
are you saying the building was 90 years old? Or are you saying this company has been around for 90?
The company's been around for over 90 years.
He probably knew Henry Belk. He probably was insured by the Palmer Kay.
Probably did. They are all interconnected, I'm sure.
Oh, that's lovely.
We did have a lot of business in Augusta at Palmer & Kay, so that's very possible.
Oh, my gosh. What a wonderful story. All right, so you're at Palmer Kay. What were you really responsible for? You had a specific duty. I read your book, but I can't remember what you underwrote.
I was head of the benefits division in the Atlanta office. The Atlanta office was about a $40 million office. Now, when I say $40 million, we're talking about commissions and fees. It's not the cost of the insurance. The cost of the insurance was in the millions and millions and millions, but our revenue was based on commissions and fees. We had $40 million. My department represented $10 million of the $40 million. So
we need to get you over to Sapphire Wealth Management. I'm going to clean out my office and move you in. Start getting some real revenue here.
I've let my insurance license lapse.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm just going to stick you into a room and talk to prospects.
But I had 48 people working for me. I had actuaries, lawyers, HR consultants, health and welfare consultants, executive compensation consultants. We ran the full gamut, mostly working with corporations and sometimes high net worth individuals, but mostly corporations.
Well, when you're pulling in revenue numbers that big, I have to believe that morale was high. You had great people, happy to be there, love the family environment.
Yes, all of that's true. Plus, our compensation system was, you could write it on a napkin. It was pretty simple, very clear, and if you did the business, they paid you.
Wow.
There was no question. Sometimes when you work with the big corporations, they make promises on the compensation system, but it doesn't always happen.
It's
There's
amazing.
always a change in the rules before you get paid.
The terms of the agreement change just before the commission is paid.
Exactly.
Well, we've been looking you over, and while this is good, we don't think it's someone your youth or whatever it might be should get this much money, and we'll make it up to you in 6 more months.
Or we didn't mean it that way.
You misread that agreement.
Yeah.
The policy was clear, but not the payout.
Yeah. At Palmer K, we didn't have any of those issues.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I had those issues at some firms, but yeah, you'd have those talks. That was crazy. Well, we're coming up on the break here. So what I want to do is when we come back, I want you've set the scene. You've got a very reputable family-owned insurance company. It's been around now at that time about 133 years. Yeah. And something happened, and we're going to talk about what that leadership change was and how that impacted you when we come back from this break. Please come back and listen to more of what we were talking about here with Ron Collins. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on Q92.3.
I chuckled at a cartoon that showed a news conference by a United States senator who announced that he was divorcing his family so he could spend more time with politics. We may laugh, but the truth is many people make that statement every day. Maybe not with words, but with their actions. In fact, if a politician retires from his work to spend more time with his family, it becomes the lead story, met with cynicism on the evening news, while the one who rejects his family advancing his career is commonplace. God tells us we should work hard to the glory of God. But he has clearly shown that we must have priorities. A relationship with God first, and family follows that. What does your focus tell you about your priorities? The Bible says that we have brought nothing into this world and we can take nothing out of it. It's good to focus on the things that last, like putting God first, and then family, and then people all around us that God loves. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
Visit rightfromtheheart.org and click television to watch our TV spots.
I'm former Congressman Jody Heiss, and we have a critical runoff election coming up on June 16th, and I want to urge you to get out and vote for Marc McMain for State Senate. Marc is a solid and trusted conservative. He'll defend our constitutional rights, support law enforcement, and fight for Georgia families. But dark money groups are now attacking Marc because they know he is the true conservative in this race. So don't stay at home, and let's all keep the main thing the McMain thing. Paid for by Marc for Georgia Incorporated.
John's Supermarket in downtown Monroe is proud to serve the Walton County community for over 50 years. 3 generations of the Thompson family offering the freshest produce, quality meats, everyday essentials, and now featuring Bistro South, a quick service restaurant with freshly made Southern cuisine and ready-to-heat gourmet meals. Always proud to support local farmers and suppliers, John's Supermarket has the best meat in town and tons of weekly specials. Stop by and see them for all the ingredients, meals, snacks, sweets, gifts, and everything in between you need.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. I'm Mitchell Swan. In studio with me today is Ron Collins. He is the author of a book called Scuttled, The Sinking of the Palmer K. And if you're just turning in, that is a family-owned business that had been around for 135 years, had a high reputation of quality, and something happened, and that led to your book.
Yeah.
So tell everyone what changed at Palmer K, and
All
what
right.
year was this?
Yeah, this was 2003. I was sitting in my office, happy, plans for cashing out in about 5 or 6 years because things were going so well. My stock values were going up and everything. And then all of a sudden there was a surprise announcement. The primary owner, John Kay, who was our chairman, decided to bring in some new management people, and they came in and they reshuffled the board, took out most of the board members that were company executives and brought in people from the outside, and they had some significant plans about what they were going to do with our company. Now, you got to look at it this way. John Kay's net worth was going up about $2 million a month at that time.
Wow.
That's how successful we were at about $138 million in revenue. So there was no real reason to make a management change, but it happened, and the book is based on a 2.5-year run out of what happened, but actually the real truth is in 12 months we were down, we were underwater in 12 months, and it often in corporations when things go south, there's a lag time before when things really have hit the bottom and before people know about it. And that's what happened with us. In 12 months, we were really out of business and just didn't know it.
Yeah, so 2003, just to remind people, that's 5 years before the great financial crisis of 2008. The country was doing very well.
Yes.
As a whole, everyone.
Yeah.
And so 12 months, when you start to scuttle something in 12 months, that's when you make a leadership change.
Yeah.
It sounds like they didn't do that.
No, and one of the reasons was the 3 individuals that were responsible for the management of the company, 2 board members and the new president, they all had $5 million no-cut contracts. No matter what happened,
they got paid.
They got paid.
That's like a professional baseball player or an NFL player.
Exactly, and John Kay didn't want to spend that money. Instead, it probably cost him over $100 million in the long run.
Oh my gosh! What was the background of the people that come in? They come into this culture. It's been running really well for 135 years. Certainly, as you pointed out, the last 5 years, as they're moving the book and watching the numbers. Did they have insurance background? Were they just a bunch of guys with MBAs saying, "Hey, I've studied from a big school, and I can tell you what you're doing wrong"?
Well, the 2 new board members were from a company that was called Johnson and Higgins, who got bought out by Marsh, and these guys were former executives there. The third person, who became our new president, had been fired by Marsh & McLennan, which is the world's largest insurance broker. He had run the Midwest region, which included Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati, those cities, and basically got fired for insubordination. And that's who the 2 new board members brought in to run our company.
Wow. All right. So they probably thought the guy got fired from his job, but he's probably, he pushes back on the boss. But man, if we hire him, he'll probably bring his book of business, right?
Yeah.
All those contracts that aren't part of Palmer K will soon be.
Yeah, that's not what happened. And really, when you go up in these firms, I'm sure same in stock brokerage or law or whatever, when you get into senior management positions, your book of business is no longer yours. It belongs to the people that work for you that are dealing with the customer on a daily basis. And so, he had a plan, and his plan, which he enunciated clearly to bankers and other financial people was he was going to steal away the talent from the big firms, pay them more money, bring them in, and they were going to bring the business.
Oh, so he was going to buy the books of other guys in the business. Like, hey, if you leave where you're at and come join me, I'll give you a lot of money.
But the word is not buy, because he didn't intend to buy the book. He intended for them to bring it with them. He was just paying them a little bit more money for them to switch companies and bring their business rather than buying it.
All right, that's a business plan. Like, I have no good ideas of my own. I'm just going to get other people to come over here and bring their book.
Yeah, and you can imagine that the big firms like Marsh and Aon, they didn't take kindly to that approach. I mean, you know, in any business, it's okay to steal 1 or 2 or 3 talented people that you need for your business, but to wholesale go out and just rob the talent from other companies, that doesn't sit well. Marsh, when Marsh was asked about it by one of our executives, we got sued in every city that we were in. Marsh sued us. And when we went and talked to him, the executive Marsh says, well, we said, what is it going to take you to quit suing us? And they said, well, it's going to take $50 million. And we're going, well, we didn't steal $50 million of your business. Says, yeah, but that's what they've allocated to this problem. And by the way, that's not even a rounding error for us.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah.
So this wonderful company, Palmer K, now the word on the street is you guys are just trying to scalp their brokers, bring them over to you, and build your book at their demise. Yeah. Not a good team player there in the industry.
No, and it really hurt our reputation. And by the way, our legal fees were $250,000 a month.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So
the Palmer K was losing money, but the law firms, man, they were raking it in from you. Oh my gosh. Well, now, what were some of the leadership problems too? I imagine you bring these guys in, they're now in control. I've never run a company before. I read in your book there was this one instance where the guy wanted to have his executive office suite built for him. What Mr. John Kay was using, that was no good for him. He needed something big and masculine.
Well, one of the reasons he got fired at Marsh is he built himself an office in Chicago that they dubbed the Taj Mahal. It had so much marble and stuff. So when he came, everybody at Palmer K used the same restrooms. John Kay didn't have a private restroom. Nobody had a private restroom. Yeah. Well, this was untenable for this guy. And we didn't have space to do stuff like that on the 2 floors that we had in the building. So he just rented out a whole nother floor in the building and created an executive suite for himself.
How old is this guy?
He was in his 40s.
And he thought that much of himself, like, I'm so important. I need... How many square feet's this guy banking? Like 5,000 square feet for his office or something?
Yeah, it was at least 5, I think. Yeah, it was big. It might not have been 5, but it was big. I mean, it was bigger than any office anybody else had.
Oh my gosh! Now, did he surround himself with a bunch of yes men? Like, obviously, you're going up to him like, look, I'm looking at the books. Things aren't good. You're listening to the account executive saying, accounting's ringing the bell like we're going in the wrong direction. Did he take the input of those employees that were still with the firm, that corporate experience?
No, what he did was the guys he brought with him that he worked with before, they were all loyal to him because they just got big raises for coming to work at Palmer & Kay. Yeah. They were making more money than they were before. But the interesting thing happens when a company goes through this and the plan starts to fall apart. The first thing that happens is the top guy changes the reporting. In the past, Palmer & Kay was transparent. All the managers saw all the numbers from a company-wide. We knew exactly what offices were doing good, what offices weren't, who was the successful salespeople, sales offices. All of a sudden, that starts to change. Now your reports are just summaries. So the bad is mixed with the good, and it's hard to figure that out. And then when you ask too many questions, then you quit getting the reports. And fortunately for me, I had a close enough relationship with John Kay that I would go in and ask him for it, and he would show them to me. And then it got to the point where they figured out that I was learning stuff I wasn't supposed to have, that when he gave me the reports, he would say, "Now don't tell anybody I gave you this."
Oh, my gosh.
So,
what was going through John Kay's head at that time?
It is really hard to tell. I took him to lunch one day to talk about it, and he kept things close to his vest. I did find out later from a former executive who really ran the company for many of the years that John was building the company, that John told him at lunch one day after all this happened that he knew within the first 2 months that he had made a mistake in bringing these guys in. That the difference in culture was more than he had anticipated.
So these guys that surrounded themselves around the new boss, were you getting invited to any of those meetings? Were they still bringing you up, or were you kind of
no?
Giving the
I had access to those people, but they weren't. The example I use in my book was, it was as if we were John Kay's children. He got a divorce, and he remarried with somebody with children, and they became the children, and we were kind of the old children left out.
Oh my gosh.
That's the feeling you had, that every promotion, every new title, everything that happened all went to the new people. Those of us that built the company, we were just kind of pushed aside, like, these.
You weren't given $5 million retainers to keep you there, like golden handcuffs. So he's now made these promises to, how many guys will we say, 6, 10?
Oh no, he brought in, he started like 8 or 9 offices in the Midwest, fully staffed, paying big bucks with no revenue. And as the months passed, when we started finding out, the revenue wasn't coming.
Right, so you kind of emotionally double down, like, hey, no, this will work. It's going to be good. It can't be this bad, this long.
And it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are some of the lessons? I know that you've actually, when I said this is like a business case study, what were the never do's that really come out in your book? Because I know I want to spend the last 15 minutes talking about these are the things that people should lead with, but what were some of the ones that stand out striking to you as don't do these?
Well, indiscriminate hiring. They were hiring people that we had turned down in other cities, and even some of the people they recommended to me in Atlanta I didn't hire because they were people I knew, and I knew they weren't going to work. They weren't the right people for our company. So the indiscriminate hiring was one. Putting all your eggs into one false plan. Instead of testing his theory in one city about bringing these other people in, he did it company wide, and that's not the way you test business propositions. You should start small and see if it's going to work, and he didn't do that. So and one of the most important things to remember is debt is not your friend. Debt is bad news, and we went from having a manageable amount of debt for acquisitions and stuff to $60 million of debt to a
bank. And the interest rates are much higher than in 2003. We got used to almost zero interest rates basically.
Well, on top of
after
that,
2008.
Too, he was planning on getting debt from insurance companies at a lower interest rate because we were such a great company. March told all the insurance companies that if you give Palmer and Kay any loans, then we'll stop doing business with you. And they were the biggest in the country.
Wow, you really rattled their cage.
Oh, we were. It was just awful. We couldn't do anything. They had us in court. They kept us from getting financing.
So we go back to that hiring thing too. So it's one thing that you can be a one-off in HR. You hire someone, you fall for their resume. Yeah. But when you start bringing in 2, 5, 10, 15 whole new personalities have never taken the field together, never worked together, but you're waving money at their face.
Yeah. We did that with 400 people.
That must have really crushed the morale of everyone that had been with that firm for careers.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't I just step up and do that? In your case, I'm bringing in $10 million a year.
Yeah.
I know the system and the culture. And
Well, what happens, what business consultants will tell you is that the good people leave first because they can. And that's what started to happen.
oh my, yeah, get out while you still have all your money in
Yeah.
retirement and things like that.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Ron Collins and his book Scuttled, The Sinking of the Palmer K, when we return after these messages.
Are you looking for custom t-shirts, golf shirts, or uniforms for yourself or work? What about a family reunion, a fundraiser, or sports team? Whatever you're looking for, Chris and Debbie at Blue Hound in Monroe can help you. Real Country uses Blue Hound for our golf shirts and t-shirts. They do quality work and they're great folks. Blue Hound is located at 111 East Washington Street in Monroe. Go by and see what they can do for you or call 404-307-3664. That's 404-307-3664. Tell them April sent you.
When you walk through the doors of Campton Restaurant, you're not just here for a meal. You're part of a tradition. I'm fourth generation owner Josh Parker, and for nearly 40 years, families in Walton County and surrounding areas have gathered around our tables to share stories, laughter, and good Southern cooking. From crispy fried chicken to heart-healthy daily specials, there's always a plate waiting with your name on it. We're open Tuesday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. and 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays. So come on by, make yourself at home, and experience Campton Restaurant, where family tradition meets every meal.
My name is Trace Akins. I'm from Moultrie, Georgia. To be an organ donor, it would make my family really proud to see something of me live on in someone else. I want my legacy to be me being there for someone who really needs me and helping someone out that really needs help, hoping that they will continue that legacy within themselves and do that with their friends and family.
When you become an organ and tissue donor, your story continues. Lifelink. Register today at mystorycontinues.com.
Hey, this is attorney Bart Bitton with Bitton & Bitton. I live and work right here in Monroe, Georgia, and I am proud to serve this area. If you've been hurt in a car accident, you don't need some out-of-town lawyer that treats you like a number. You deserve a local lawyer you can trust, someone who lives here, works here, and takes care of people. So remember this, if you're ever in a car accident, be smart, call Bart. Bitton & Bitton, local lawyers you can trust.
Welcome back, my friends. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on Q92.3. I'm Mitchell Swan, filling in for Marc today. And with us in the studio is Ron Collins. Now, Ron had been in the insurance industry. He's kind of outlined that he worked for a firm called Palmer K. And in 2003, they had a leadership change. And within 24 months, we had a 135-year-old company go bankrupt. Now, you were there to the very end, weren't you, Ron?
Oh yes, I was there for the last board meeting when we basically were forced to sell to Wachovia, the bank that was holding $60 million of our debt.
Well, I feel bad for you as a friend. I also feel bad for the other employees. I mean, you're like the loyal soldiers, like, hey, the war's not going well, but I'm not going to abandon my post. I'm going to keep doing the best I can.
Yeah, it was a bitter moment for a lot of people, and even to this day, when you get two or three ex-Palmer and K people together, they talk about how great the ship was because it was a nautical theme of our company, and we always called the company the ship, and when you get more than two people together, they talk about how great we had it at the ship and what went wrong and how bad it really turned out to be. So yeah, it was an emotional time. That's really why I wrote the book. I spent 10 years thinking about it and writing it in my mind, and then I finally one day I just sat down, and 10 months later I had the book.
Yeah, I just want to touch back on that emotional issue too. Again, for those that weren't listening to us at the beginning of the show, Robert E. Lee got a policy from Palmer and K. Right? Yeah. So just think about how much history has gone by. They got through the Great Depression. This firm lasted through World War I, World War II, everything. Yeah. And then in 24 months, all that history gone. And we were talking also about the value of family-owned businesses. Are there any family-owned insurance companies anymore that you can even think of? Could someone replicate this if they're like, you know what, I'm going to get away from this big institutional insurance model and do a family?
Actually, they do.
Do they?
Yeah, it's not easy. It wasn't easy then. But
Sure.
It's not, but people do it. People get out, start a company, start adding services, adding different benefits, and it does happen. The largest privately held firm was Lockton, and that started, in Kansas City. A guy named John Lockton, and now it grew to they were the only firm bigger than Palmer and Kay at the time, was Lockton, and they're a big national firm. So yeah, people do it. There are some people that don't want to work in the stifling environment of the big national firms that just want to sell insurance and make money and have a good life. They do it. People still doing it.
Was there any effort to keep this alive after Wachovia? Did John Kay be like, maybe we can do something with what's remaining, these ashes?
Well, what did happen was, I think it was like 5 or 6 years later, once the non-compete started running out, John Kay went to Wachovia, bought the name back. They wouldn't give him the logo, evidently, so he bought the name back and they restarted it, but you can't. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't replicate what he did. I mean, when he started all this, he was in his 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And now his son, one of his sons, is running the new Palmer and Kay, but it hasn't had the growth and the level of success that we had. We had, it was magic. We had magic in a bottle. And
all their goodwill was ruined. Their word was ruined on the street. The idea of putting a policy on a napkin, those days were over now for them because of their reputation. And I guess I would also look, just to throw them a little shade, now it's like 2011. When his do not compete clause came up, and our own industry now was schwacked by the financial crisis of 2008, and that lingered for many years in many different industries. There was a time it was so bad, I think there was insurance companies that were looking to, they might have folded if it got much worse. So you wrote the book. Tell us, so you sat around. What was it like writing the book, and then what was the response of people that had been with the firm, like, Ron, what are you doing, man? You're spilling the beans.
Well, it was cathartic for me because there's so much drama in the book, and I didn't intend it to be a lesson in each chapter, but that's basically what it is. The chapters are short, 1 page to 9 pages. I don't think there's a chapter in the book over 9 pages. But each chapter tells a story, and I can't tell you the response I got once the book came out. There happened to be a national insurance meeting called RIMS in Atlanta that year, and I did not attend, obviously, but everybody that was there told me that was the only subject that people were talking about, and people knew the story, it was. I only heard from the Kay family one time after that, and my attorney on the book was kind of a famous, well-known attorney, Lynn Wood, and I think his reputation and the fact that the truth is a defense against a libel suit. Nobody bothered me about it. I never got sued. I was invited to speak at Schiller School at Georgia Tech, the MBA school.
Yeah.
I spoke down at Auburn. Stevens Company, who's the big financial company out of Arkansas that funded the Superdome, and who works with Tyson's Chicken, and they invited me to come speak to their insurance division.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. I've spoken to consulting groups and Kiwanis and people like that. And it's kind of funny, and I think you experienced this, Mitch, with one of your friends. People read my book, and then they want to talk to me about it.
100%.
Because it strikes a chord. And
well, there's two ways to read this. And this truly, not just the short chapters that you had, that each one has a lesson. No, I read it a bit as a student, like, I was a page turner because I'm like, they can't be doing this. At some point, someone's going to just fire those clowns and turn the ship around. Yeah. But what the real thing is you can read it just as a history book, or you can read it as a puzzle, and that's what I do. I want to read it and go, all right, I'm on chapter 23, and everything's shot. Next? What would I do if I walked into that briefing room and said, look, I think we can turn this around. We don't have to ruin it. What steps could I take? Yeah. And if you're a real thinker, those are things you're going to take out of the book, because you're going to come up with challenges in our own lives, no matter who we're working for. And you're going to say, I think this is wrong. It's going in the wrong direction. But if we do, steps 1, 2, and 3, we can kind of right the ship and not have it go right to the bottom at this trajectory. Yeah. Were there any moments in there where you're writing the book, but there are things as you wrote that you go, you know what? If we had just done this, this would have really made an impact.
Yeah. I think some way John was a victim of his own honesty and integrity. He felt like he had a contract with these 3 guys that he couldn't break. But as a friend of mine who worked with one of the big law firms in Atlanta told me, she said, Ron, that's what lawyers are for. We could have gotten out of that deal. I mean, it was mismanagement. I mean, it was terrible mismanagement.
Just for cause.
Yeah. These guys, they didn't know what they were doing. They came from a big corporate environment. They weren't entrepreneurs. They didn't have the skills, the talent, the background to run an entrepreneurial company like Palmer & Kay. And in each one of the lessons in my book, it just, whether you're talking about hiring, compensation, reporting, all of those things, they did it wrong. And I said to the new president one day when I was having a conversation with him about hiring somebody, and I said, Jim, are you sure about all this, because you're taking a lot of risk? He says, oh, I'm sure, Ron. I wouldn't be bringing all my friends into this company if it wasn't going to work.
All my buddies.
Well,
all my frat buddies.
Well, that's what happened. I mean, it went down the tubes. All these people, a lot of them, the guy that became the head of the Atlanta office, he moved his family down here. And I already knew. I told my wife one night after a business dinner with all these people that he was going to take the job, even though his wife didn't want to move from Chicago to Atlanta. He's going to take the job, and we're already down. He doesn't know we're already down the tubes, and that's what happened. So
when you mentioned the, you could have had cause to fire them. It makes you think of like a surgeon who's malpracticed. I mean, patients are dying every time the guy does anything in the operating room, and at some point you can't be like, well, we did sign a contract for $5 million, let him keep going, because
John felt like he had honored the contract, and he didn't want to write a check for $15 million. 3 guys, $5 million each.
Yeah,
he just didn't want to do it. So that's what happened.
I will be honest with you too. When I read your book, I want to remind everyone, these guys just mismanaged this firm.
Yeah.
And
they wasn't dishonest, right? Just mismanaged,
and they overspent on themselves, and they gave themselves grand offices and new bathrooms, and doesn't it make you feel like our government some days?
Oh yes.
You look at these; they're not doing anything illegal, but they're not doing anything good. Yeah. But we're losing money at a record rate, which is why our national debt is so high. Our services are awful. From education to roads to infrastructure.
The analogy that you're bringing in is that when I watch the news, and whether they're Republicans or Democrats, it don't matter. When I see somebody that had a position in private industry, maybe not at the highest level, then they go into government, and I hear them talk, and I know they don't know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of that in government. Because people change with every administration, and you get a lot of people that are pretenders that don't know what they're doing.
And I will also add, not only do they protect themselves, right, but it's those GS employees, those staffers up there that have, oh, I've done this gig for 15 years. I'm working for a Republican one year, and then he hired somebody, so I went over to a Democrat, and I worked for them for a while, and then I worked for an independent. I mean, they're almost hired guns, and they're just going to be fairly much yes men. Like, what flavor am I selling today? All right, we're pushing chocolate ice cream. We're pushing tax cuts.
Who do I have to please?
Yeah, then you go work for some other guy, and like, I'm pushing for tax increases. We need mass socialism is what we need. Well, when we come back, what I want to do is pick your head, because we've got people possibly listening. They have a business, and they want to hear, what are the good things? How do I actually steward a company to success? When we return, you're listening to Q92.3, Marc McMain Show.
Big out-of-state gambling companies have big plans to do whatever they want in Georgia. Those plans start with having liberal Democrat Keisha Lance Bottoms and Rhino Marc McMain in their pocket. Gambling and casinos are destroying the lives of families across Georgia. Higher bankruptcy rates, depression, a rise in addiction. But Rhino Marc McMain is with them, not us. Now we learn McMain's invested in companies involved in big tech AI factory data centers. The same data centers that are buying up Georgia land, driving up electricity rates, and failing to create jobs. Rhino liberal Marc McMain, ready to risk our futures to serve big gambling and big tech data centers, not us. A Christian family man, Doug McKillop, shares our conservative values. McKillop can't be bought, refusing special interest contributions, even willing to lose his House seat to defend our values and ban late-term abortions. On Tuesday, June 16th, vote for conservative Doug McKillop for state senate.
Paid for by Doug for a conservative Georgia.
When it comes to tasty treats, the only place you need is Stone Mountain Pecan Company. Enjoy fresh, high-quality Georgia pecans along with a huge selection of your favorite nuts like almonds, cashews, walnuts, pistachios, and Brazilian nuts. Plus delicious mixes, dried fruits, candies, and Southern Pecan coffee. Stone Mountain Pecan has it all. And the best part, it's all online at stonemountainpecan.com or visit our country store on Highway 78 in Monroe. Stone Mountain Pecan Company. Something for everyone. Eat well, be happy.
Have you been putting off auto repairs? Do you want a body shop you know and trust? Go see Auto Correct Collision. Auto Correct is a family-owned and operated collision center with over 45 years of experience. Their equipment and training exceed industry standards. No repair is too big or small. Ask about the special drawings and mention this ad for a discount. Visit Auto Correct Collision at 409 Mayfield Drive or call them at 770-207-1241.
All right, welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. In studio with me is Ron Collins, and we've been discussing the bankruptcy of the Palmer K, a 135-year-old company, and how it wasn't fraud, it wasn't crime, it was just mismanaged by a bunch of men with pride and ego and having no real appreciation for the culture that had been there and the talent that they had. So you wrote this book. You were able not to get sued because you were just telling the truth, and you've spoken at all these places. For those folks out there that have a business, maybe they're thinking of selling it, doing something similar that John Kay did. What lessons do you have for successful managers or someone that wants to turn a company around or take their own company to the next level?
Yeah. Well, what built Palmer & Kay was John Kay's leadership, plus there was another individual that was there for most of those years who ran the day-to-day, and the combination of those two guys is what made the company successful. And when I was speaking at Georgia Tech, the professor that invited me to speak to the graduate class, after reading my book and talking to me, he said, "You know, what you're really talking about is servant leadership," and he says you need to focus on that. So I started reading up on it. And the truth of the matter is, for most of the years that John Kay built the company, he was a servant leader. He never took credit for anything. He always brought people in. He supported them. He paid them. He promoted the company. He did everything right. And I guess the lesson to be learned is, you know, just like in Good to Great, the Jim Collins book Good to Great. You know, what we did was we were on the the wheel, spinning that wheel faster and faster, doing the same thing, what we were good at over and over again. Changing our business model from a servant leadership management style to the authoritarian top-down management was not right for an entrepreneurial company. It just, nobody wanted to be there and do that. We were all, a lot of us were people that had been with the big firms, and they can be very joyless. They can be very stifling, and you're limited in how much money you can make. In an entrepreneurial organization, you don't have those problems. So I would say, if you've got success, just keep doing what's making you successful. Don't change your business plan. Pay attention to who you hire, but the servant leadership role is very important. Support the people that are doing the work, and you will have success. And that was John Kay's, most of his career was that way. So that's why what he did was just such an anomaly.
Well, I think for entrepreneurs, there's really two paychecks we give someone. You know, here's your pay,
yep.
But then there's got to be gratification, like you feel good about what you do, and appreciation that you're valued. Once you just monetize that person, you're really like an industrial chicken farmer.
That's
I don't
right.
care about the health of the hens. I'm just feeding, watering, and growing so I can make profit, when I ship them out for slaughter.
Yeah.
I think about like Chick-fil-A. They have that servant leadership ethos also. And is their chicken sandwich good? It's great. I love it. But when I go in there, I always feel like I'm not just getting a good chicken sandwich. I'm supporting a really good business with a strong message, closed on Sundays. Their people couldn't be more. I've never met someone in a Chick-fil-A and said, "Hey, how's the job going? Do you like it?" They love it, you know?
Yeah. And that was Palmer and Kay, by the way. We were that way. People loved us. We loved our work. It was just a great environment, and that all changed. It just changed, and it changed overnight, and the results came in pretty fast. When you're borrowing money and overspending, the results come in.
Well, you're really the coach of a team. You know, the coaches shouldn't be the ones getting all the credit for a Super Bowl win.
That's
you
right.
know, they're up there. They're touching the trophy.
Yeah.
But when I used to counsel young Marine officers at the Navy school when I was developing them, I always told them, you don't focus on your career ladder. Your Marines aren't there to help push your fat butt up your dream ladder.
Yeah.
If you focus on those 30 ladders that you're responsible for and help each one of them take one or two steps up their own career ladder, they will so adore you as a leader or manager. They're going to make sure you succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what was happening for the first 14 years I was there. That's what was happening, and then it just changed. I mean, no matter what you did, we wrote the PGA Tour while under the new management. It was something that one of my guys and with my guidance, we were able to take that away from March, the world's largest.
So you
program.
never had that. You're underwriting the PGA. That had to be just a feather in your cap.
Oh yeah, but we got no credit for it. I don't even know that there was even a memo put out about it. and here we are. That was a big deal. We could have used that in our advertising. Never hit our advertising. They didn't care.
Yeah.
So.
Well, again, it was the sinking of this great company. It's like the Titanic, and you're like, hey, we just cleared out this space of all this water. You're like, it's still not going to change the trajectory of this thing. Well, if someone's a young entrepreneur, or even just with your experience in the insurance industry, what should a young person look for? I feel like oftentimes kids go to an interview, I'm out of college, I've got my degree, and what they really want to do is just be hired. And if it's hired by a firm with like a big brand recognition, well, that just sounds better. Like I'm working for, General Electric, and like, oh, wow, that's great. But they really ought to maybe do some research on the culture that they're trying to sell themselves into.
Absolutely.
Before they do it.
Yeah, and companies do have cultures. They have personalities, and some companies are known to be sweatshops. Others are known to be risk takers. Some are rewarders. It just depends, and you need I tell young people, sit down and write down the 10 or 15 things you really like to do in life, and then find a career in one of those and go after it and learn as much as you can. Don't worry about the money the first few years. Get some information, get some knowledge.
Well, I was just having a lunch with some CPAs down in Covington, and one young kid had just graduated from UGA, and he was, all the big firms, and he's looking at Coopers and Lybrand and all these things, KPMG. And he actually took some advice from a family member, and he decided just to hook up with a local accounting firm, two-man shop, and he's crushing it.
And grow with that.
And he's got a happy life. He's got no pressure. I've worked
he's not flying to Chicago for a meeting, a regional meeting.
Staying at a Holiday Inn Express somewhere with bad food. Yeah. Those waffle buffet breakfasts that you get, and you're like, I don't think any of this stuff was handmade. And it was probably made a few months ago and put in a freezer for my reheating enjoyment. Well, what do you think about this show so far, Paul? Are you getting much out of it? Is it relatable?
Yeah, it is. But I'm just kind of curious, and of course it's advertising, but what do you think about all of these commercials you see? Oh, the insurance company's not your friend. Hire an attorney. Don't deal with the insurance company. Yeah. What do you say to that? Yeah,
that's geared more towards the automobile, the
injuries.
Places, injuries and all that. We didn't have my area of expertise was employee benefit plans for big companies. We didn't deal with all that. And on the commercial side, the property casualty commercial insurance, everybody's a professional. The people at the corporations that's buying insurance, they have risk managers, they have brokers like us, and they have insurance companies. You don't get a lot of the legal stuff. Mm-hmm. Now the automobile stuff, there's a lot of times that gets in front of a jury, and people thinks there are going to be big rewards, and sometimes there are.
Sometimes they are, yeah.
Well, we love that you're working for that small business. Now, before we end the show, I really do. I loved that book. I enjoyed that greatly. And I also enjoyed the one about Henry Belk. I just love hearing how people started with nothing, grow something fantastically. And I see Belk's is kind of struggling right now. They keep closing stores. They seem to have some kind of branding problem going on. But where can they find your book?
All right. Well, locally, you can find it at the Artists Guild in Madison, there on Jefferson Street, just down from Madison Produce, or at the Madison Market on Academy Street. Both stores have my book. And then if you don't want to go to Madison, you can go on Amazon, and it still gets 4.5, almost 5 stars on Amazon, and you can read some reviews there and learn more about the book.
It's a great book. Remind them of the title again.
It's called Scuttled, The Sinking of the Palmer Cay.
All right. Now, I appreciate you taking time because you left work. You came up here. Remind everyone where they can find you and support your Weinberger's Furniture.
Weinberger's Furniture at Lake Oconee, across the street from Publix, right behind the Wells Fargo Bank. It's 58,000 square feet of fine furniture.
Yeah, you can't drive by that. 58,000 square feet. Yeah, that's going to stick out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you so much for coming in today with us, Ron. It was a real pleasure, and I do sincerely encourage people to read that book.
Right.
They will get something out of it. Well, folks, thank you for joining us this Monday afternoon. I'm Mitchell Swan, filling in for Marc McMain, and you're listening to Q92.3.